Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of Lights, Camera, Action. Today I'm going to be bringing you through my process for building a part in a level. Originally this was going to be planned as a speed build for the stage lights art, and I have done the stage lights art already, but similarly to last week I lost the recordings, and since then I cleared out a ton of space in my computer since I don't want this to happen again. And I made some other changes to how OBS saves the data. Hopefully it should all be working now, and it won't happen again in the future. So today we're going to be working on these first two parts, since I have the art done for them, and I have the block designs conceptualized for them, and we're basically ready to go. I'm not going to be doing the intro yet, and there's like a section at the beginning, and I'm going to go quiet here because the song, I want the song to be able to be heard. But these jump pads basically. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do for that part, but I want it to transition well into the first part of the level along with the second part. But for now we're just going to leave it blank. All we're going to do is start with this first part here. Now the first thing I want to do is figure out what I'm going to do with this block design here. So obviously I mentioned before I hate the way these squares look, so I'm just going to get rid of those immediately. That's the first thing I'm going to do. So I have this blank canvas now. These dots are okay, they're a bit generic, they're used pretty much everywhere. I'd like to do something that would make this stand out, but I'm not really sure what that would be. And going off of the mirror theme, I already have these lights on the outside. So the frame is essentially the frame of the mirror here, the top and bottom part of the block design. Anyway, I'm thinking about doing a bit of a pattern with these dots. Okay, so I think I'm just going to go for a basic pattern with these dots. I'm not going to try to do anything fancy. I tried a lot of stuff. I tried arrows. I tried more stuff off camera. And the problem with the mirror thing is that it makes it look very imbalanced. Because there's no way to avoid it if you're going to replicate, if you're going to replicate over this line. Here's the problem I'm going to have to solve sooner rather than later, and it's the transition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to It's been about a week since the last clip. I haven't done much on this level since then. I worked on the transition and cleaned things up a bit, like I said I would, but I haven't really done much, and that's for one main reason, which is school started back up again for me. Winter break is officially over, so this last week I've been pretty busy with all of that. However, right now it's Saturday. Hopefully I can upload this video tonight. If I actually make any reasonable progress, it'll probably come out on Sunday night, in all honesty. But what I did was I added this film strip effect, kind of like goes between the two parts, and it goes over the top of your character. It's layered above your character, and on one side it's pink and on the other side it's blue, as you'll see whenever I play the level. So you can see how that works there. It's pretty simple. Basically you just make sure that you have an overlay on either side, so that whenever the background color changes you can't see it. And that's basically all there is to it. But yeah, other than that, this is basically how the transitions are going to work, and the block designs are going to be visible on both sides, which I think is really good, as opposed to a full screen transition where it's just like the screen somehow gets to all white and then somehow comes back from all white to reveal a new part. First off, those are really annoying to play through, and that's a mistake I made a lot in summertime. That's why the gameplay in summertime is horrendous, is because of the transitions and also the ball part at the drop, but it's mostly because of the transitions and the lack of amount of time they give you to react. As a creator, it's really hard to make good transitions. And that's not because it's like, well, that's for a different reason than most would expect. The reason it's hard to make a good transition is because as a creator, you know what's coming up, you built it, you know what the level's like. So you're ready for the transition and you never experience what it's like to get thrust into it blindly. However, as a player playing your level, it's really bad a lot of times when you as the creator wouldn't see a problem with it. And a lot of gameplay creators I know suffer from the same thing, where they, as I did and still do, get tunnel vision when making a transition. I really tried to improve the transitions on Ultramarine from my previous levels, and although that only worked somewhat, I think it overall was a lot better. There were still quite a lot of white screen transitions. In fact, almost all of them were. But that's for the very simple reason that I didn't really go in with that goal in mind. I didn't really plan to make interesting transitions from the beginning. So the very first transition in the level is just a white screen fade. The second transition in the level, I really wanted to do something interesting with it. So it has you going underneath the water when holding a dash orb, which I think is another really good way of doing it. And it was definitely the best transition in the level. After that, though, it's just another white screen fade. However, the transition's not annoying to play because of the amount of time I give the player to react, which was nice. Then the transition after that, well, there is a white screen element to it, and it basically just covers the entire screen and replaces it later, which is not ideal. It does have the element of, or it does have more than just that to it. There's like lights that fade in. And anyway, back to the point at hand. I'm going to replicate this transition effect to this part right here. And then after that, we should be done with all the transition elements of that. So I'll come back to you whenever it's done. Okay, the effect should be mirrored now. So if I play real quick, I always turn down the music so that way I can talk over the top if I want to. So there's the first one. There's the second one. I do think the color of the background stands too closely to white, so I am probably going to change that so that you can obviously differentiate between there. But the effect itself is functional, which is a good thing. So now we just have to do block designs. So in case I didn't mention this earlier, like a week ago whenever I first did this recording, whenever I did the first part of this recording, what I intend to do today is to do all the block designs for all the parts. I'm not going to do the background for this part yet. I'm going to change this background slightly because I don't like the colors at all. I'm going to implement both of the backgrounds and hopefully add a bit more to the background, maybe some midground details, and maybe also some pulsing glow. I'm going to begin by implementing my block design. So this guy right here, hopefully I can actually just do this easily. Hopefully you remember what I said earlier about everything overlapping, and that's still going to be the case. So whenever I make the next block design, I want it to overlap with everything here. So I gotta make sure these are like at layer bottom 2. Okay, these are all basically on bottom 2. I'm going to copy this first so that way I don't accidentally screw everything up with what I'm about to do. And try to add it all to bottom 2. Hopefully that should be all of the layering issues fixed. I think it is time to start work on the other block designs. So I'm just going to copy and paste this over here and put it all on bottom 1. Since this will allow me to copy and paste assets or pieces from the original without having to relayer it every single time. So now, cue what is probably going to be a montage of me building this part. Okay, I'm back, and as you can tell, basically finished the second one. It still feels kind of empty. There's a lot of changes I've made to the basic idea of the block design. Those being adding shading to the triangles that I'm currently working on, along with making it more triangular. Like this one, sure, the shape of the block design is obviously a triangle, but other than that, and these little corner triangles, which really were only there as a test, I didn't do much with that. On this one, I tried to really emphasize the triangular nature of the block design. I did that by incorporating these triangular shapes everywhere. Of course, you have the block design itself, you have the indents into the block design, and you also have these offshoots from the outline that form smaller triangles within. So I've done all this, and now comes for the moment of truth when we see how they look overlapped. If I can actually select this, and I have a feeling they're going to look very bad overlapped, but we're going to find that out. Yeah, that's about what I expected, to be honest, not going to lie. However, I think it will look better whenever they're moving upwards. Like this will start right here and move upwards, say for instance, and you can see the separation better that way. That's my hope, at least. It's my hope. But yeah, as a whole, it looks okay, in my opinion. Looks okay. Not even close to my best block design. Not even close to my worst one. So as you can see, I had to change the layering to be a 3-tiered system. So there's bottom one, which is the furthest low part. The furthest layered. You could. I do not know how to describe it. The layer that is on the bottom of all the block designs, which is this one, which is going to go below all of them. Then you have the top one, which is this big boy. And then you have the middle one, which is going to be this. Since this slightly overlaps at the very edge, I need to have a system for that. Okay, since the last block design I did was more of a montage style, I'm going to try to talk through my process for what I'm thinking whenever I'm making this. So obviously, since this is layered on top, this entire area is going to need to be filled. This entire thing. This triangle right here is actually going to be layered behind it as well. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's probably how I'm going to do it. So I need the whole thing to be filled. And I want these circles to be the basis of these block designs, since they're like supposed to reflect stage lights. I talked about that in the last episode, how these circles are supposed to mimic the way stage lights look, because if you couldn't tell, the part is based around stage lights, and that art sucks. I need to fix it later. Mostly just the colors that suck. But also, you can tell I'm lazy because I didn't take the time to fix the shading. Whenever I just mirrored it and left it be. I'm not going to fix the shading. That'd take way too much time for something that ultimately very few people take note of. Anyway, that's beside the point. I may have made a mistake already, actually. May have. Great. Okay, this is going to layer 17 now. As I was saying before, these are supposed to reflect stage lights, and they're supposed to be like the focal point of the entire block design. So that's going to be like the main part of all these. Not a single block design is not going to have one of these. There may be some without the big ones, although I'd say probably only like this block design here. But they're all going to have at least the small guys. So I'm trying to use the elements from the previous block designs, like these triangles here. I'm just trying to reassemble them in a way that is more interesting and new while leaving space filled. Overall, I think this block design looks clean but feels empty. Like this entire area just feels flat right here where my cursor is. And that's not ideal. However, whenever you're playing it in game, you're going at this speed. So that being said, it's such a large space. There's not much room for detail, or there's lots of room for more details. And oh my god, I just realized as soon as you go through the ship portal, your view expands. So that is another problem that I'm going to have to worry about. I think I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. It's probably going to be solved by putting just a black box underneath it. I don't want to extend these all the way down, however, I will figure that out later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small guy. I want to have a use for the small guy. And this time I think I'm going to put it directly under the big one. Now it kind of looks like a camera lens. It's not a camera lens. Regardless, I am now going to use this, and the reason, I say this, I should probably clarify. I'm going to be using this plain gray piece here because, as you can see, the main color of the center of the top circle is a dark blue, and that's not the same as the color of this circle here, and that is a problem. So if I were to use these blue pieces, I still don't know what to call them, these blue lines, then it wouldn't meet properly at the right color. And of course, you know, you could be saying, Krypt, this can all be solved if you use glow, if you use gradients. Yeah, well, I hate to break it to you, but if you can't already tell, my style is not exactly based around its use of glow. It's not to say I don't use it. I've started using it more, but in block designs, I basically never use glow in most cases. It just feels really out of place with my flat design style. For backgrounds, for pulses, stuff like that, glow is fine. But in general, I don't use glow very much. And I think that's fine. I don't think you should feel forced to use something because everyone else in the community uses it. I don't think you should feel forced to use something if it's not what your style wants you to use. And I say what your style wants you to use because if you're telling yourself what your style should be, then you're not doing your style justice. So I have a lot of empty space here. And now is the part where I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to add in this empty space. So I'm thinking what could go here that fits with the rest of the theme. I can't overuse elements. I can't add more of this blue outline type stuff. I can't add more circles. I can't add more of these indented triangles. What can I add? And it's moments like these that shape block designs, not just for this particular one, but the entire part. So if I come up with something here, it could potentially get used in this block design too to fill this empty space. So I actually have an idea, and I think I'm going to do another indent, except the difference is it's not going to be triangular shaped. I know I just literally 2 seconds ago said I can't do another indent, but I think if it's uniquely shaped, it might work. Now I'll just mirror it over. And ta-da, you have your weird thingies that don't look like indents. Great. They just look like weird arrows. I think the reason for that is that I need to change the shadow on this particular one. Instead of having it on both sides, I need to have it on, I need to have it on the other sides. See, I get too caught up in the details, small details. That is good. It's good enough for me. Good enough for a town this size. So now I have all of these, and you see it already makes it look a lot cleaner. Like instead of it seeming like there's just a giant base plate behind, like this section looks like, it feels like there's a divided base plate, like there's a design that this stage lights are sitting on. It feels like there's a chassis maybe behind them holding them together. I don't know why I use the word chassis when that relates to like cars and whatnot, but it feels like there's an actual structure that's holding it all together, and that places where the structure isn't necessary, it's been taken off. And that is exactly what I'm missing in this part, and it's exactly what I hope to rectify right now. So I'm actually going to fix this block design, and I'll be back. Okay, as you can see, I have completely finished this wave block design. Sorry for the drastic cut to an increase in quality. I thought I was recording for some of it, but I wasn't. I'd pressed stop recording to save more space after the incidents that have happened in the last episode. So the first thing you can probably notice is that I added this piece coming down the center here, or this indent coming down the center here, which I think looks really nice. And it takes up a lot of space, and it adds more depth to the block design, which is always a good thing. Secondly, I made the lighting, or the shading, more consistent. So rather than having this only on one side and having that switch between them, I added it to both sides, and I made sure that everything stuck to the consistent shading pattern that was put into place here when I was making this part. Basically, anything that's a top edge, or there's an edge on top of an indent, there's a shadow beneath it, and anything that's on the left side, there's a shadow beneath it, is essentially how I worked. And I know these little pieces here don't fit with that perfectly, but I think it's fine. And yeah, this block design back here is kind of hidden for the most part. Hopefully it will show up more once I start implementing movements. And I'll show you what it looks like in game real quick. As you can see, the first part's very underwhelming now whenever you compare it to this part, which I think turned out extremely well. Well, not extremely well, but pretty good. I like the way it looks a lot more than I did before, now that there's actual space filled. So, now all I have left to do is to finish off the rest of the block designs, which is no small task, I will say. No small task indeed. But hopefully it should be done pretty soon. And yeah, I'll see you whenever that's done. I'm going to take a moment while building this to talk about some random stuff. And I think I'll do this for all montages in the future, where otherwise it would be a bit boring, a bit repetitive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a random topic in each of them. And in this one, this first of many, as I can assure you there will probably be many, I think what I'd like to talk about is 2.2 and community expectations for the update. Now, of course, RobTop has basically blue-balled us for the better part of 5 years now. I mean, it's not that long, it's only 4 years. I know, big difference. But he's basically led us on for an insane amount of time, and the community rightfully wants to know what's going on with 2.2. And every time the servers are down, you see the GD server, the official GD server, just get flooded with people saying, 2.2 is coming out, 2.2 is coming out. You know, stuff like that. It makes me laugh every time I see it. No, 2.2 is not coming out, believe it or not. I know, it sucks. But I'd like to give my opinions on 2.2, and you know what? I'm going to be the first to give one of the hottest of hot takes. I don't care about 2.2. I don't care one bit. I'm not excited for 2.2. I'm not enticed by 2.2. The only exception to that I can think of would be the song trigger, which I can see a lot of use for in different levels, where you perhaps can even make your own soundtrack for them, as long as you're whitelisted on Newgrounds, of course, or you use a Nong song, an ONG song. That's literally the only thing I'm really that excited about. I used to be excited about platformer mode, another controversial opinion, but I liked making games in the editor. I still like making games in the editor whenever I'm bored. Never really uploaded any of them because I've never really finished one. I thought it was cool, and I don't think it would ruin the community or the game as like everyone else seems to think. I think it would just be an additional feature that creators could choose to use in their game or in their level, and the levels themselves would be probably rated separately from normal ones. However, I get that why some people don't like the idea. I understand. However, as a whole, 2.2 has completely lost all appeal to me. And I think that's started happening as I've grown as a creator. The main reason for which is that I've gotten used to the 2.1 editor, and change is kind of scary in a way. You never know what's going to change and what's going to be the new norm, what's going to be the new standards. I have a feeling that it'll take me quite a long time to grasp the new editor, and I think it'll take everyone quite a long time to grasp the new editor. So I think that my worry is that I'll grasp it slower than others, and that I'll fall behind in the creating game. I mean, not that I'm a big creator or anything like that. I'm certainly not. But that's a genuine worry for me. Another thing is, I mean, it's just really not worth the hype at this point. I enjoy the game like it is. Why does it need to be changed or updated? I get that updates have been worked on. I don't care if it gets updated. I'm just saying I'm not, like, excited for it. It's not, like, something I need to enjoy the game. I'm enjoying the game perfectly fine as it is. I never spend any time actually playing Rob Top levels, really. I would like to see new gauntlets, and I know that's probably not going to happen until 2.2 comes out. But as a whole, there's literally nothing that I'm that excited about for 2.2, and not other than the song trigger, like I said before. So every time I see people like bursting into tears in Discord, Geometry Dash Discord. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words now. Every time I see people bursting into tears on the Geometry Dash Discord server, whenever the servers go down and it turns out to not be 2.2 coming out, I laugh because I feel like I'm the only one who really doesn't care anymore about 2.2. I don't know. Probably very controversial opinion. I get it. But that being said, that's just the way I truly and honestly feel. I just don't have that much to be excited about. And the things that Wrapped Up has shown us, they're all cool additions to the game. They could be used well in levels, but nothing really groundbreaking. The random trigger, you can already basically do with the current triggers we have. You can make a randomizer. It's not ideal. It's never perfect, but you can make one. And same for a lot of the other triggers. The only thing you can't do is mess around with songs, and that is why that is the one feature I'm excited for. Now, RobTop has stated that the song trigger will not allow you to use more than one song, which is disappointing to say the least. It'd be nice if you could have like a whole soundtrack for levels and stuff like that. But regardless, I think 2.2 is just overrated, honestly. I'll be the first to say it. RobTop hasn't given me much to be excited about. The main things he's shown off are the random trigger, the new gameplay game mode, or the new, not game mode, but the new gameplay mechanics, which I don't like at all. I don't like the idea of the screen stopping and you bouncing back and forth with using orbs. It just feels so un-Geometry Dashy. As the longer it takes, the less I care. Now, that being said, there are some things, I'm not saying I wouldn't like it if an update came out, because I think that an update would be good for the community, obviously, for obvious reasons, because Geometry Dash is dying, even though people don't like to think of it that way. I don't like to think of it that way. It is, in fact, dying. That's the unfortunate nature of it. It is dying. The levels that are getting created are getting better every day. That doesn't mean it's not dying. It means that the community who stayed behind is getting better and better every day. Well, maybe not less toxic, because we all know that's not going to happen, but it's getting more creative every day. And I don't think that will change. I think there will always be people who will play this game, always be people who will innovate, and I just think that group of people will change, and it might even increase if an update comes out. In fact, it probably will increase. That's the only reason I have to want a 2.2 update apart from song trigger. But with all that being said, I did enjoy 2.11 because it introduced tons of features I actually enjoyed, like Weekly Demon, more gauntlets, obviously, a ton of other cool stuff. All of those were good features, and I enjoyed them. I still do enjoy them. I play through the gauntlets like all the time, but stuff like all these screen shaking effects and like that one Rob Top showed off where the screen just like warps out like you're having an LSD trip. No, thank you. It's just I just don't find any joy in looking at it, and I don't think it's creative. It's like the shake trigger, but worse, because at least with the shake trigger, there's times where you can and should use it. This, there's literally no time when you should use it, at least from what I've seen. By the way, I may not have been entirely truthful, because other than the song trigger, I also like the idea of a scale trigger. That being said, I want the scale trigger to work like the multi-scaler in the Mega Hack, in the sense that it doesn't screw up all the art, because, you know, I don't want it to screw everything up because one item is every item is scaled to exactly 1.00, but one of them scaled to 1.2, like it always does. I don't want a scale trigger that does that. That would just be pointless. I want a scale trigger that actually works. And then some other ideas I had are including a layer trigger. This would be so useful for optimization, where it changes the layering of objects. This can be both for the actual Z layer and for the base layer. I am back now. I have done most of the block designs in the part. There are a few I haven't done at the very end here. You see this one particular slope and the end platform, and that is because I'm not entirely sure what to do with them yet, since they span over the center or the film strip part. I'll work on those later. Also, I'm getting very bored of this block design. I'm glad it's for such a short part, because doing this for the whole thing would get extremely boring extremely fast, as it already has. Luckily though, I think everything is in perfect order. Okay, yeah, everything is perfectly layered. I'm gonna leave this be for a bit, and what I'm going to do is go back to the first part. And the first thing I'm going to work on is implementing the background, or in other words, making it so the background is in the background. I know. But I'm not just going to put it there, and I'm not just going to make it follow the player. I am going to make it come down from the ceiling. I am going to move it down by around 200. I'm actually going to check the right amount to make sure it's exactly 200 blocks, which is what I had. And if I'm going to actually move this back over here, the reason for that being I want it to start the process of getting locked to the player X right around here. And I'm just going to set that to around 5 seconds. That should be plenty of time. Yes, it is plenty of time. And then of course I'm going to make this ease in out. And it is going to be for around 0.5 is actually probably about right. And I'm going to make it move down by -205 first. And then I'm going to move it back upwards by 5. So there's a bit of back out kind of thing there, if you know what I mean. And that will take approximately the same amount of time as it takes to move all the way down. And we'll just see how this looks real quick. That momentum is going to bring these down from the sky into this stage lights part. You'll see what I mean whenever it's all done. However, I'm not going to work on that quite yet until I fix this art, which is what I'm going to do right now, since it looks pretty awful. And I think that looks much better. I'll do a side-by-side comparison of it in the original. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add each of these to individual groups. This one's apparently going to be 4. This one's going to be 6, I assume, since 5 is already taken, if I remember correctly. And then I'm going to move them above the part here. Very important. because this is where they're going to fall down from. So both of them are going to need to move down by around 120 blocks. This one's just going to move down that amount in around 0.75, and the other one is going to start later, and it's going to move down that amount in around 0.9. That's much better already. Just moving them backwards made me like the part better. Okay, I think this will work. I think it will work, especially if we add more to the background other than just the art. Right now it's very empty, of course. That's not what it's going to be like. I've worked on this for long enough. Next thing I'm going to work on is more background details. First things first, this theater mirror part. There are some important things I want to do. The first being, I want the gameplay to be reflected in the mirror. That will be fairly easy to do, just need some mask. So what I'm going to do is make sure this matches up perfectly with the edge. It's a good thing this is a straight line, by the way. Matches up perfectly with the edge of the mirror. Don't want it to overlap at all because it's layered above it. Then I'm going to make it about this wide. This is -29 on bottom 3. We're going to have to make this -30 on bottom 3. Okay, so now here is where we run into some problems. I'm going to make this -31 now, and I'm going to layer these light bulbs over the top of the stripe, since we want the stripe to look like it's going behind the mirror, right? So already this looks more like a mirror, seeing as the stripe is not shown through it. That makes things much better. First things first, taking all of the block design parts. Okay, so now I'm just going to put this all on layer 16. So now I just need to put this in group bottom 4, and bottom 4 is not enough. I need to relayer the block designs entirely so they are at the bottom of bottom 4, because right now look at what would happen. I assume this won't be pretty. Yeah, it isn't pretty. So I'm just going to test this with one block design before I spend all my time doing this on all of them. Okay, that took a lot less time than I thought, so I'm back. Everything has been relayered appropriately, so hopefully if I move this up here, it should all be behind everything. Yep, it is, including the stripes. Now, you see I haven't done the masking everywhere else yet, so that's what I'm going to do real quick. It should only take me a few seconds. There we go. So that's what it looks like now. This should all be in group 5. It is all in group 5. Another thing is going to have to change is the colors. You don't want people thinking that this is an actual block design in the level. So the colors are going to change. With all that out of the way, I just want to see what this looks like. And nothing ever has gone wrong from playing a level, right? It looks so bad. There's so many things wrong with it, all the things I mentioned earlier. It's not moving at a parallax. It's not moving at a correct angle. It just looks so bad. The real point that it's trying to make is a proof of concept that it could work. The first step is obviously to make the parallax. The second step is obviously change the coloring. The last thing I'm going to do in today's episode, because it has been a long time of work already for me, is to work on some movements for these block designs here, because I think it'd be really cool to see how they look with movements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this up by implementing some movements on these block designs, seeing how they look, and maybe changing some things about the movements. We'll see. Walking you through my process for making movements, which is pretty simple. I don't put a lot of work into moves, and it's evident. My moves are not good in levels. They're not good. Sometimes I do some backing out, which I obviously have failed at today. I've tried to do it twice, once for the mirror, which I just gave up on, and once for these lights, which didn't turn out too good. So I don't think I'm going to use them on these block designs at all, because I'm not feeling confident in my ability to pull them off. I first need to assign each of these block designs to groups, obviously, for obvious reasons. Okay, so now I've added them all to groups. It's pretty easy. Now it's just time to make them all move. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the object I want to make move. I'm going to move it downwards, the amount I want to move upwards. So in this case, I only want it to move up one block. What I usually do is I obviously make it assigned to the group. I make it move up by the amount I want to move up. For single block movements, which is what this is only moving up by one block, I usually set my timer to around 0.8, 0.9, and I set it to ease in out. And I do this for the similar thing for most of my moves. I make some adjustments here and there if I want to change the way they're moving, but for the most part, this is how I do movements. I obviously will play around with it later, and then I want it to stop its movement process before you get to it. I don't want it to be moving when you get to it. That's just annoying from a gameplay perspective. So I think around there is good. Maybe a bit further back, since it is popping up from behind this block randomly. That may be a bit too soon. Yeah, it's definitely visible. So I think this is fine. And I'm essentially going to do something similar for all of these. In most parts and levels, I wouldn't make every block design move. But in this one, since they're all like overlapping and stuff, I want to show that they're separate block designs and that each of them moves independently. So I think it's actually important for them all to move. Okay, so I've just finished the movements, and I think they actually came out pretty clean. I'll show you what they look like here. See, they all just move into place. You know, nothing special, very easy to set up, very, in my opinion, clean. Definitely something I think basically anyone can do for their movements. It's literally as simple as it gets. Ease in out, amount you want it to move, and you can adjust the duration of time accordingly. Just make sure it ends before you really get to the object. And with that, like I said earlier, I'm basically all out of ideas, all out of motivation, all out of time. But yeah, next week, I'm going to be working on finishing up this first part here, making it nice and clean, adding in some effects, adding in some pulses, working on the mirror effect, because that's also important, kind of the point of the part. I will not be working on the background for the third part yet. I don't really feel the motivation. If I feel the motivation, I will do it. However, I can pretty much say with certainty that I don't feel the motivation to do it. So in all likelihood, I'll also be doing a bit of work on the second part as well, similar to the first one, adding effects, adding lighting. And you know what? Since it's the end of the video, do you guys all a favor, give you what you've been wanting, and play it with music. I know it's only like 5 seconds of gameplay, but here we go. I know, it's a pretty awesome song by Meganeko. Go check him out. Obviously, a lot of you probably know who he is, but it's from his new album, Sequence Break, his relatively new album. And all of the songs in it are amazing. I was originally planning on making a series of levels using them. However, I really just don't have the motivation to do that, nor the drive. Instead, I'm just going to be focusing mainly on the one I had the most motivation for, which was this one, Lights, Camera, Action. Anyway, that is about it. I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.